The Russian anti-war movement's female assassins. That guy is hot. Could it be me? Vladlen Tatarsky, a military blogger, was ecstatic to receive a golden plaster bust of himself on Sunday. He may never see anything else again. Tatarsky, a vocal supporter of Russia's invasion of Ukraine, was hosting a discussion group for his fans called Cyberfront Z in a St. Petersburg cafe owned by Wagner mercenary boss Yevgeny Prigozhin. With 200 grams of TNT equivalent, the statue exploded mere minutes after Tatarsky stole it. He was one of 33 people injured in the explosion that rocked the concert hall. Russian authorities detained 26-year-old Daria Trepova yesterday on suspicion of her role in the blast. Trepova has the political pedigree of an anti-war activist. She has been arrested while protesting the invasion and while supporting Alexei Navalny, an opposition leader who is currently in jail. But even if Trepova was to blame, it's not clear if she acted alone. The assassination of Vladlen Tatarsky represents a major escalation in opposition activity. Trepova is seen on camera saying, "I brought a statuette there that exploded," in response to interrogation. But when pressed to reveal the gift's origin, she offers only, "Can I tell you later?" She would never have been able to do something like that on her own, her husband Dmitry Rylov said. She was set up, she was used by some people. Meanwhile, Prigozhin hypothesized that a group of radicals was likely responsible for the attack. Prigozhin added that everything is similar to the murder of Darya Dugina last August. Dugina was the daughter of far-right nationalist political philosopher and Putin supporter Alexander Dugin and a political commentator in favor of the invasion of Ukraine. She was killed in a car bombing outside of Moscow, with the FSB pointing the finger of blame at a Ukrainian woman. Similarities to the assassination of Tatarsky can be drawn. Both involved the public bombing of high-profile pro-war figures with a flair for the dramatic. Explosives were reportedly planted in both cases by lone female assassins who had previously developed relationships with their targets. According to FSB information, the suspect in Dugina's case had recently moved into the same building where she did. Tatarsky is said to have invited Trepova to sit next to him at an event and allowed her to bring the statuette in because they had become so close during previous appearances she had made. Both incidents were seemingly carried out by lone actors, but they actually shed light on the growing radical group activity. Ex-Duma member and opposition activist Ilya Ponomarev has accused the National Republican Army, a shadowy grassroots network fighting against Putin, corruption, oligarchy, and the Ukraine war, of being responsible for Dugina's death. Ponomarev has suggested that the group organized Dugina's execution because they needed something high-profile for which they could become well-known, citing the group's history of arson attacks against military recruitment offices and calling for lone wolves to attack the state. Now he says the resistance forces who eliminate war criminals are to blame for Tatarsky's death. The RPD Black Bridge Movement is another organization that fits this description. It has not claimed responsibility for Tatarsky's murder, but it has said that people who back the war are fair game. Formed in September of last year, the group has since taken credit for a March explosion at an FSB warehouse. If its members were responsible for Sunday's murder, it would be a huge step up in the organization's goals, following in the footsteps of the National Republican Army and moving from bombings and arson to high-profile targeted assassinations. Activists in the shadows are calling for more violent means of expressing their opposition as the government cracks down on protest, and critics of the war face jail terms of up to 15 years. It's possible that elite Russians will become even more worried about the prospect of a series of assassinations of prominent pro-war figures. The frustrations of Russia's ruling class with Putin's war were revealed last week in a leaked recording of a conversation between record producer Iosif Prigozhin and ex-senator Farhad Akhmedov. The two men criticize the intervention and discuss discontent among the president's closest associates. Ponomarev shared a picture of Dugina and Tatarsky with the caption, "One fate," as news of Tatarsky's passing spread. Last year, he was one of many who advocated violent means of eliminating those who supported Putin's war, saying, "People will realize that there is something bigger happening."